Hi, leaders. Thanks for joining this training. Today, what we're going to cover is thinking a lot about and discussing strategies to support your teachers in their ability to clean up their grades before the end of the report period. We're also going to make sure we cover some key strategies that you'll want to make sure your grade 3 through 12 teachers are using to set up their graded items and to manage errors in Schoology. We're also going to reflect on ways that teachers can manage their grades in an ongoing way. So one of the things, the reason why we're doing this today is I want to make it easier for you all to know how to help your teachers minimize some of the grading issues at the end of the report period. And one of the things that we've reflected on is that continuous improvement helps make sure that waiting until the last report period doesn't delay report cards for kids. So one of the things that you can use is to leverage feedback within continuous improvement to ensure that all of the grades are continuing to meet expectations with syncing so that students really have an understanding of where they are in their performance. So first things first, one of the things that would be helpful to know is that how grades flow. So just to kind of refresh for some of you, once schedules are created in eSchools, they create the course shells in Schoology, which also creates the Schoology gradebooks and the categories and grading categories. So once teachers create what we call graded items, which could be a discussion, which could be a assignment or assessment, they can provide grades in Schoology. And so we're going to talk today about how to make sure when you're setting up those graded items, what are the best settings so that they sync to your gradebook. Once the items are set up to sync, and the sync between Schoology and eSchools is working, the assignments and grades will flow over to eSchool Plus, which you can view in the Teacher Access Center. There's a step to make sure that not only are things moving between Schoology and eSchools, but there are some audit reports that you'll be able to run to make sure that everything that is in eSchools is in Schoology and everything that's in Schoology is in eSchools. Schoology is the gradebook of record, so that's where all items should be added. Once everything is clean and at the end of the report period, if teachers have made sure that everything in Schoology is set up, then it'll be easier to generate the report cards. To help support you with working with your teachers, we've created a new lesson in Diving into Schoology that focuses on these really specific best practices. Have them visit and complete this Diving into Schoology lesson so that they can review best practices for setting up their graded items, the 2 daily items that they should be completing to ensure that the sync is happening and that their items are set up properly, as well as the weekly item that they should complete to ensure that everything is getting to eSchool Plus as they designed it. And then an extra little bonus here is that if they had any original configuration challenges, there are some tips on how to fix that if they run into it through that weekly audit. So we'll dive into some of those best practices for you here so that you have a little bit of an understanding of what we are informing them. You can also feel free to check out this lesson in Diving into Schoology. So here are some best practices on setting up your graded items. Whenever creating a discussion, assignment, or assessment, make sure that there is a due date and it is during this report period and it is a specific school day, not a weekend and not a holiday. Make sure there's a due date. The grading category should be one of the grading categories that we were thinking for that grade band. So completion ungraded could be an option for any teacher. And then the secondary or elementary grading categories like exit ticket or formative. Do not use ungraded or it will not sync to the gradebook. Make sure that the report period is also set and corresponds to the due date, and then make sure that the sync to SIS has that blue check. Otherwise, there's going to be an opt-out error. As mentioned in other places, just as a friendly reminder, all items should be marked as published in order for the grade to show up for kids. In the Diving into Schoology lesson I mentioned, there's a how-to video that walks teachers through how to do these items. One of the most important things that teachers can do in their gradebook in Schoology is that they can, on a daily basis, click the little clipboard to review the sync status log. When they click on that, this little box will pop up, show them all of their graded items and the status. Successful is what we want to see next to every single item. And for anything that has an error, you can hover over the view error. It's going to tell you more specifically what's wrong. And then they can go back to the triple dots in their gradebook and click on bulk edit to make the changes so that they can then press the sync changes button, those two arrows, in order to make sure that any of the changes they made are flowing. This is one of the most important things that teachers can do. If they've created graded items and then made changes, like they changed the due date or changed the grading category, those won't sync to eSchools until they push this button. So pushing this button every day is really helpful just to make sure that the connection between Schoology and eSchools is active. So if nothing else, make sure that they are taking this step. And so as a bonus, we've created an audit report, a view that the teachers can pull as well as one for school leaders. And this audit report is not only going to help them see what is going from eSchools to Schoology, but also really understanding if there are items in eSchools that are no longer in Schoology, how to remove them. Schoology is the gradebook of record, so everything must be in Schoology. So those items that get deleted in Schoology must then be deleted from eSchools. So this report is going to tell them when that has occurred. It's also going to tell them if there's any issues that they didn't address in their audit report. One of the greatest things about this report is that each hyperlink drills down into additional details. So if you're a school leader, you can click on the percent of courses not meeting one of these categories to be able to see which courses. And then once you're there, you can drill down into which specific items need to be fixed. So ultimately, you want to make sure that your grade books are successfully set up and not waiting to the last minute to do that. We've also created a handout that audit support and resolution guide for school leaders so that if teachers are struggling to fix some of their errors, you can help support them in understanding why the error is occurring. So in talking to other schools, here are some strategies that we have heard are effective for helping support staff. So one, sending these new lessons and expectations to teachers is going to be really important. And I've heard that some schools find it really helpful to review these strategies in a staff meeting and even providing them with some work time to go ahead and get used to the sync changes button, the sync status log, and even running that audit report and fixing those errors together. Once you're weekly checking progress, it makes sense to take a look at which teachers need help more than others and provide that follow-up support and individual check-ins. Waiting to the last minute is going to mean you have a lot more work and a lot more cleanup they have to do, which might mean there's not enough time before the end of the report period, which is why it would be good to do this every week between now and the end of the report period. Some leaders have mentioned that helping some of those teachers not have as many graded items helps clean up this process and not providing as many grades for as many assignments this report period. And with the audit reports, you could potentially have staff competitions to see which staff or maybe which grade area or overall just even monitoring your school's completion against another's to be able to ensure staff know the value of ensuring that grades are ready for kids at the end of the report period. So thanks for taking a look at this and supporting your staff. Now what you can do is go ahead and toggle down to complete the exit ticket here. We also have some additional information, including access to the Schoology lesson for teachers so that they can go ahead and complete these activities and watch the videos on how to set up their graded items and hit their sync changes button. I really can't emphasize enough that this sync changes button is super